Hello. We're going to wait just a few minutes to get started as participants are still coming in. We got started just a minute late. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat.
Um,
Hi,
well, I'll start.
I'm Christine Brito. I'm from the Center of Independence Living, South Florida. Happy to be here.
Welcome.
This is Kim Liddell on the phone. I am from Progress Center for Independent Living satellite office in suburban Cook County outside of Chicago.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, this is Frank Cordova. I'm with the Independent Center here in Colorado Springs, and I'm an options counselor.
Well, welcome. I believe that we have a good number of people here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started since we got started a little bit late. For those of you that want to continue introducing yourself, you can sure do that in the chat. And I just want to say welcome to our July core conversation on institutional transition and diversion. My name's Rebecca Roberts. I am the Director of Training and Training and Technical Assistance at April. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an older white woman with short hair and a big smile usually. And I am glad to have you here today. At the end of today's talk, you'll have a survey opportunity, and I really want to encourage you to give us the feedback on these conversations. As we start planning for the next year, it will really help us to think about how we want to do this. And when you take that survey, you could also mention any topics that you'd like to see in the future. So again, at the end of it, you'll have a chance to do a survey, and I really encourage you to do that. We have two ASL interpreters, Vanessa and Erica. When one is interpreting, if you'd like to pin her to your screen, you can just go to their box and look at the three dots at the top. And if you pin them, you'll see them nice and big as we move forward. We also have a CART interpreter. We should have some closed captioning going on for you. And I believe you can get to that on the bottom of your screen to make sure that your closed captioning is turned on. I am so glad to have you all here for this conversation. Institutional transition, I mean, that was one of the reasons that SILS got started in the first place, right? Peers helping peers to get out of these institutions and create community situations. Did I just see? Okay. Excuse me. To get out of institutions. And it's such an important service that we have today. It has the potential to change lives in a big way. So what I'd like to do is start out, remember this is a conversation. You can participate by raising your hand. I'll try to keep an eye on you, and Alyssa will help with that as well. And I need to move my screen around so I can see what I've got going on here. So you can participate in that way. Also, you can just jump in when you'd like if there's a lull in the conversation and you want to respond to something that's going on, or you can share your comments in the chat and we'll try to keep track of those and read them as we go along. Let's start maybe by sharing what your SILs are doing and the types of challenges and opportunities that you're facing. Would anyone like to share what they have going on? Alyssa, Dalton is still not assigned as the closed captioner, I believe.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that. If we could go ahead and get started, if anyone wants to share what's going on at your SIL. Let's see. We've got one hand up. Andy?
So I don't know if I'm in the right thing because I'm a youth and I got this email, so I don't know if there's something for me to be in or sorry.
Yeah, we do have a youth meeting. Alyssa, do you know when that is scheduled? Andy, I'm not sure how you got on this list.
I just got from the April emails, so
Oh,
sorry.
you're welcome to stay. This is a core conversation, but if you're looking for the youth group meeting, Alyssa, do you know what the schedule for that is?
I believe it's this evening.
This evening. Okay. If you'll send an email to us, to maybe Alyssa or my contact information, we will try to make sure you get hooked up with the right invitation. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
No, it's okay. Just
All
wanted
right.
to okay. Bye.
Bye. All right, Jacqueline, I see that your hand is raised.
Hello from Houston. We can you hear me okay?
I can.
Wonderful. We're recovering from Hurricane Beryl. This week and a half out, we still have people who we're trying to serve that are without power, internet, food, water. Had a family this morning of 7 who are without power in one household. So our Coalition for Barrier-Free Living and the Houston Center for Independent Living, Brazoria County Center for Independent Living, and the Fort Bend Center for Independent Living are hustling to try to stand in the gap for folks. Wanted to let everybody know that we have I call her still our new executive director, but Dr. Stephanie Simmons has been with the coalition now for just over a year, and our agency is taking on a new life education program. We're partnering with Drive for Success Online, a visually impaired VIBE program, a youth program, an advocacy program, computer classes, career coaching, and then our for a long time we've offered men's and women's support, and it's just a really great time to be a part of the coalition, being reorganized internally so that we can streamline our service delivery. And we provide durable medical equipment to folks in need who are not working. And at the moment, it's on a personal note, it's a thrill to be able to help a gentleman who became ill and lost a leg about a year ago. He's recovered now, and he's in the process of being measured for a prosthetic leg through our program so he can go back to work. That's what keeps me, part of what keeps me in it every day is just the excitement of being able to really help people change their lives for the better. So thank you to all of you for all the good work you're doing as well. And hello from Houston.
Hello. It's good to have you here and to hear from you. If there's anyone else who wants to share what they're doing with their transition programs, please just jump on into the conversation. Is there anyone? I'll tell you, I've been very curious about the different kinds of institutional transition that people have been involved with. I've talked to a few people recently that are doing a lot of work with mental health organizations in their area. We've also seen a rise in the folks that are working with the criminal justice system. Anyone?
Hello.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
My name is Rosie Vasquez. I am the Life Skills Advisor here at Disability Connections, and we're in Michigan. And we just had a summer youth program that was about 3 weeks long, and it basically was helping them prepare for an interview and to seek employment. So it was for students that were 16 to 21 years old. And at the end of the 3 weeks, if they participated and did all the work, they received a $1,200 stipend. And that was very encouraging for the students to sign up and join us for that. So that was a really good time. It was my first summer working with them, so it was a very nice event. And right now we have our county fairs that are happening, and we didn't have enough time to get into them, but we are doing other sort of outreach things, and we are going to a Civil War reenactment that is one of the largest here, and it's in Jackson County, and we'll have a table there, and it's going to be a really cool event. It will be in Hillsdale County Fair and as well as Jackson Pride Fest. So we are going to set up tables and just sort of share our resources here. And I currently visit the Youth Detention Center, so the kids' campus here in Jackson County. Right now, they're the only ones that I'm working with because of the summer break, but when school starts back up, I'll be in 4 other middle school, young adult program, and high school. And I'm trying to get more, I guess, peer support with the youth and sort of create an environment for them, because right now our SIL is mainly working with adults. So I'm really excited to bring more stuff to the youth and that community. But yeah.
Thank you. That sounds like really good programs that you have going on. Alan? Alan, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, hello, good morning. I'm sorry, I was having issues unmuting. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan. I use pronouns he, him, and I am with the Dell McIntosh Center here in Anaheim, California. We're about 10 minutes away from the happiest place on earth, this land. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what we're doing for our youth transition program. We have our summer academy that we have every year coming up in August. This year is going to be 3 days long. So it's going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And our theme this year is actually transitioning into life, next steps. So we're going to be talking about what next steps can the youth take after finishing school, or if they're done with like college, or they're looking into getting their first job. So we're going to be covering a little bit about that, and we will be also be covering the importance of having a mentor. We have a couple topics and activities for those lessons and those topics. And the last day we will actually be going to the park. So we always try to have like a fun day where we just pretty much just celebrate our academy. So we'll be going to the park. We'll be playing some games. We'll be having some pizza probably, and just have a good time with our youth here. So that's what we're doing for our youth transition program.
That sounds excellent, Alan. We have planned in September, I believe we're going to have 2 core conversations, and they're both going to focus on youth. And I think one is youth programs and the other one is youth transition. So I encourage you, if you have youth transition programs or other youth programs, or you want to participate and share resources in the conversation, that's what's on board for September in these conversations. How about nursing home transition? Does anyone have any nursing home transition going on? What do those programs look like? No one. What other? Oh, do I see one? Brian. All right, thank you.
So I'm actually brand new to Atlantis. This is my 2nd month as their executive director. We actually have nothing going on. We're in the process of rebuilding that element of our transition program. The pandemic was rough and we lost about half of our staff. And so part of that was much of our transition moved. And so we're currently kind of starting from the ground up and looking at not only like working on those types of transitions, but then also looking at how do we incorporate quality of life alongside it. so that people that are transitioning have the ability to like thrive in their communities and not just exist in a space. But that's where we're at.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that COVID brought many challenges for people when it comes to institutional transition. Does anybody have anything to share with Brian, or what's going on in your programs? I'd encourage anyone to jump in that wants to share anything that you're doing in institutional transition, or any challenges that you might be facing or opportunities that are out there. Let's get this conversation going so we can really gain from each other's experience. Anyone? I am seeing no hands. Brian, do you have any questions you'd like to ask of those that are, have active programs growing in nursing home transition?
I mean, some of it is just mechanics of it. And we're figuring out how, like, we're literally hiring a director of transition and advocacy services right now. And we plan to build this program effectively or rebuild it. And so there's mechanics of just like the funding models that people use to help support this. We're connected with housing, we're connected with Medicaid and Social Security and all these places, but it's finding the ancillary resources to help support these individuals as they transition from these spaces that I think has been a little bit tough to navigate. I mean, in fairness, Rebecca, we're rebuilding everything. So I'm taking independent living from the ground up again, because I want to expand on, I don't like, okay, so I might be not popular here. I'm coming out of higher ed, and I am new, like not new to the world of disability, but new to the world of independent living. And I really struggle, for example, with having INR be a standalone thing. I feel like INR should be incorporated in all the things that we do. And right now, like the model that I've inherited is very much, we have INR people, we have IL people, we are supposed to have transition people. And I want to kind of mix and blend those roles so that people are consistently working towards supporting our community at all the different levels. And it's been an interesting space to inherit, because like we have this super long and rich history at Atlantis, but we moved during the pandemic into a space that isn't conducive to the community building that we used to have. And so there's an element of that as well. And so all of this is kind of stemming from like the new space, rebuilding the program, providing supports beyond just independent living skills, but budgeting, life skills, like educational support, employment support, like all the things that people would need to help thrive in their spaces. And
Brian,
I mean,
you said you were a new ED, you said you were new to IL, is that?
I am 5 weeks into the job.
You should contact us. We do have some great resources for you. We have a mentoring program where we match experienced executive directors with newer executive directors to help them get an orientation. And it's like a year-long mentoring support. I'm not trying to plug it, but it sounds like it might be useful. So I've seen a lot of people post in the chat about some different problems or barriers that they're facing. A couple of the things that I'm seeing, and I'm trying to find one, I'm trying to come back here. Here we go. Beck shared, I'm not sure if this is just for our county, but our housing authority has paused all Section 8 referrals, including the non-elderly disabled Category 2 vouchers for people exiting skilled nursing facilities. This has made an already monumental task even more difficult. And I do want to say that there are a few people in here, a few other people besides Beck, that are bringing up the issue of housing and that being a large challenge for transition. I'm going to go ahead and take a minute to, let's see, Brooke has her hand raised and we'll go there.
Hi, this is Brooke Wilson. I'm the Executive Director of the Oregon State Independent Living Council, and I more wanted to, I guess, maybe answer or address some of Brian's comments. So the whole, you have people who do INR, you have people who do independent living, you have people who do transition. In most centers, and I think a majority of the folks on today's call would agree, many folks wear different hats, and that's just kind of how the small nonprofit world is. So oftentimes someone who's really good at INR has been there for a while, so they've been able to develop the resources and relationships to be able to refer people. But that doesn't mean that they can't do IL skills, or they can't do transition, or they can't do some of the other things that you might find within a center. So I'm almost curious, and I don't know if other staff from your center are on this call and they can all dislike me. I'm almost curious if what you're coming into is, well, I only do this, this is my job. And so even though historically they might have had to do more. So I think that most center staff that I know, and I know people across the country, they do wear multiple hats and they do multiple things, and have multiple titles. And so if you're trying to more create a well-diverse staff that can do multiple things, I think that it exists. So I just wanted to put that out there.
No, I appreciate that. I'm not sure if I have other staff. This is something that I've talked a lot about with them already. You're absolutely right in the sense that I think people had very much, this is what I do, I don't do anything else. But I'm not super happy with that either. Just because like I want to meet people where they're at. I don't like just being like, here's a website, here's something, go. I mean, there's a whole lot of just structural issues that I'm trying to address. And I'm going to be not popular as well as I build out my expectations for the different roles that exist at our organization. But I mean, to paint you a picture, like we had 34 staff when the pandemic hit. I was number 18. We have 19 now. And we're about to hire number 20. But you know, it's been so many different levels here at Atlantis that we've had to address, from the structural issues to ensure that we're making and meeting compliance, but also now that I've got a handle of that, it's understanding all of our budgeting, because we have no unrestricted funds. We literally are all federal and state grants. And so it's also figuring out, how do I diversify our funding structure so that we can rebuild out our staff at livable wages. You know, there's a lot of pieces here. And so I've been lucky enough that through our ADAPT connections, I've been able to talk to other EDs across the country to kind of run ideas by and talk through some of the problems. And so we're definitely making progress, but I really enjoy things like this because it allows me to learn through others' experiences and think through like some of the paths that I'm wanting to take, and knowing that like I'm not alone in my thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to the April Peer Mentor Program, ILRU holds a monthly call for new executive directors, new center directors. They have like, I think Joey's on here. Someone's on here from ILRU who can, or you can, if you can email Paula McAlee, she can put you on the list. And so it's like a monthly peer support call for different positions. So there's a Silk one, there's a new ED one, there's I think there's a finance one for
Yeah.
people who work in finance. So those are also really good opportunities to be in groups with your peers to bounce these ideas off of. So I would, there's resources out there.
Brian, when we send after this call, we'll send out an email to everyone, and we will share not only a link to the transcript of this, but also we'll share the resources that were mentioned in the chat. I've also made a note in case somebody doesn't put it in the chat. I'll include that information as well. The ILRU is a really good resource.
Mm-hmm.
Brooke,
I
I
actually
want to
meet
ask.
with I meet with Paula weekly right now.
Okay, all right. I see Beck has their hand raised, and let's go ahead, Beck.
So I wanted to, I don't want to get us too far off topic, but I did want to comment briefly on what is being discussed at the independent living leadership level, which is I would actually encourage that folks sit down one-on-one with each member of their staff and individually talk through what they do. It sounds to me like if there's if the staffing got cut in half, then people are doing multiple things, first of all. Second of all, there is probably a large amount of folks that have are experiencing or have experienced burnout at that particular SIL. So in my mind, I am a little concerned that the advice of people should do more is maybe not the best way to step into that position, because that to me sounds, if I were in that SIL, I would say, well, I'm already doing XYZ thing. I've been here for 3 years. I'm really burnt out. Why am I being made to do more? So I would encourage listening to staff first and foremost, prior to saying this needs to get done, that needs to get done, so on and so forth. And that to me is actually more independent living centered, because our staff are also people with disabilities, at least 51%. So keeping that in mind is incredibly important. Thank you.
Thank you, Beck. I would add just a little bit as a previous program manager at a SIL. At our SIL, of course, all of the specialists kind of crossed over, but it also was really beneficial to help some staff develop specialty areas. Because, for example, institutional transition is one of those areas, because it's pretty intense work and you have to have a lot of contacts to do well at that. And spend a lot of time planning with that consumer. And when everybody was kind of doing it, we didn't really have a reputation for doing it. And it was a much longer and maybe less successful process. So our institutional transition person did do other things, but that was their primary expertise. And we put a lot of resources into developing that expertise. And I think that can be true of other areas as well. So I kind of see both what Brooke is saying, because people don't have the staff to just singularly do one task. But also it is nice to develop some expertise, and that can't be expected of every staff member in every area. Beck and Brooke, I would encourage you both had in the chat talking about, I think, housing and homelessness. And I wonder if you would address that to just kind of bring us back on topic.
This is Beck. I'm happy to do that. So the thing that I put in chat was definitely something that is relatively recent. We had a meeting with our housing authority, I think last week, with regards to this. And we found out that not only are they pausing all referrals to the non-elderly disabled housing choice voucher system, they're also pausing people that are in the pipeline. So for example, if they've done like a request for tenancy approval, or no, I think if they've gotten to RTAs, they're doing denials and acceptances, but that's all they're doing. They're not doing any sort of modifications. They're not doing any sort of extensions for the meantime. And it's really thrown a wrench in things. I mean, the housing authority overall, Section 8 has its problems, but it's still a tool. And for us just not to have that makes things exceedingly more difficult. So I think that where we're kind of trying to come from is we want folks to safely exit institutions, but we're finding an extreme lack of housing in our area that meets folks' needs when exiting institutions. Over.
Thank you. It seemed like in the comments and from other things I've heard that a lot of people are facing housing crises and homelessness. Andrea, I saw you had your hand raised.
Oh, yes. It was actually thinking back to all kinds of transition really, but I think one of the biggest barriers that the folks I work with experience is not having access to enough personal care aides. Many of these folks could live independently in the community if we were able to find aides that were paid well enough, et cetera, for them to maintain the robust workforce that's needed. But I have a gentleman that transitioned out of a long-term hospitalization for mental health concerns. He had been homeless previously. And it's been about a year of trying to find aides. And honestly, he will have an aide. They might come once or twice and something will happen and they'll move on. So like looking at things like the Fair, I know I'm in New York State, I'm in Ithaca, New York. We have the Fair Pay for Home Care Act that's seeking to increase wages. But that's the biggest barrier that I've seen in my work, at least thus far.
That is a challenge. Would anyone else like to share their successes or challenges in transition? Or resources that you may know of?
This is Maria Cordova, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator at the Independence Center in Colorado Springs. And I just wanted to echo what was shared, that we have a home health, we have a family and friend paid caregiver program and a veteran directed care program. And we're also facing the same challenge of finding caregivers, direct care workers. A lot of times it does have to do with the pay, but sometimes it has to do with the travel involved. In a couple of our we serve 6 counties and we're from the mountains to the plains. And so sometimes it's really hard for people to travel to certain locations to be that caregiver for somebody for like respite care. But then we also have people who would like to be part of the family and friend paid caregiver or our veteran directed care program, but since they have to have a family or friend willing to be that caregiver, and sometimes it's hard for them to find that because they are living in more isolated counties. So yeah, just echoing that it's another challenge, and we're hoping that caregivers start getting paid more.
Yeah. Just to plug something related that April is doing, we're partnering with the Grassroots Advocacy Project, and we're providing a webinar that will be coming up in August. And the focus of it is the particular difficulties that rural areas have with caregivers and what advocates can do at a state level to address that. So it's not necessarily helpful in a particular transition, but it sounds like a root problem that we need to deal with. And so if anybody wants to attend that webinar, you will be getting an email about it.
Rebecca, sorry, this is Maria again. Did you say that was called the Grassroots Advocacy Project?
It is, and we'll be having a webinar through April. In August, I don't think the date is set. It might be, I think it's going to be the 3rd Thursday of August. And we're going to have some guests that have really done some good advocacy in their states and who know a lot about what states can do to address that problem. Does anyone else have ideas for addressing that problem? Beck, go ahead.
This is Beck. I'm gonna put this link in the chat, and I know that this is not a solution that will yield results in the near future. But ACL sent out an email yesterday that HHS is getting public comment or not yesterday, excuse me, a couple of days ago, for the Office of Management and Budget, or I think, and basically they are gathering feedback on what jobs that they should gather data on. And one of the questions there is, should we be gathering data on caregivers? And that would be immensely helpful for us to tell them via public comment, hey, please do gather that information on caregivers, because then we'll have more statistics to come to folks with to say, hey, this is how much on average, for example, people are paid. This is how many hours they work. This is how many people they serve, so on and so forth, so that we can be better advocates for our care workers, and hopefully get an increase in pay across the board. Over.
Thank you. Thank you for posting that resource. And I do see that Joey posted the resource to the new executive director discussion also in the chat. Anyone else? So housing and caregiving are two issues that we are facing when it comes to institutional transition. Would anyone like to talk about any solutions they've found or ways that they're approaching that, or other barriers? Go ahead. Did I see a hand up? I am not seeing faces in this chat. Is it bad hair day, or what do we have going on here? Let's see. I'm rolling up this, scrolling up.
Maria has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maria.
Hi, it's Maria again. I thought of another barrier / solution. So this was a while ago for one of our outreach consumers. They did want to transition back into their community, but they live in a very mountainous rural area. And due to their physical disabilities, a lot of the biggest barrier they were facing was mobility. There aren't sidewalks. Their home had a lot of stairs. A lot of the other buildings in the community were not accessible. And so we have an assistive technology specialist. And so we promote our home modification program quite a bit so that we can help people apply for grant funding or go through Medicaid or the VA to see if they can qualify for that help. Sometimes people are able to get that help, and then other times they're denied all grant funding. And so we've started getting creative with some local resources, and one is it's a construction trade school. And so we were able to partner with them so their students could help build an accessible ramp for this consumer so that they could get in and out of their house for doctor's appointments. And so, and these are high school students, and their teacher has that background in construction. And so we have a small grant that we're able to work out of. And so we were able to help, well, we gave the students gift cards, and we had like a little party at the house of the consumer. He was okay with us having a party at his home. And so that was a great community building time because we were facing so many challenges to help this particular individual. Sorry, a different individual, but the other person I was talking about, at that time for him, transition wasn't possible because of the barriers he was facing. And so we had a success story, but then we still have the other individual who's still facing those accessibility challenges. And so, yeah, I didn't know if anyone else had any other outside the box ideas of how to help people work with other area businesses. We also work with Rocky Mountain ADA to see if we can get ideas there. But yeah, if anyone else has any ideas with working with businesses that are out of old historical buildings to see if you can help people gain access where they live.
Would anyone like to share any other innovative solutions? Let me break in here and say we've got about 15 minutes left of this conversation. I really appreciate everybody that is participating, and I really encourage us to share our resources. Also, at the end of this, I want to remind you to take that survey when we get done, and also I'll provide some contact information. So if you have resources, please share them in the chat, and let's continue our conversation. What are the ways you're finding to, solve some of the challenges that you're facing in transition? Anyone? Um, Let me ask another question. I know in my experience, I've seen a lot about nursing home transition, but I know there's a lot of other transition services that are going on in communities. And I would just like to, I'm just curious as to what the needs are in your communities, and what SILS can do to help. Boy, we're not being very chatty today. Does anyone have their hands raised? Jump on in if you got something you want to talk about having to do with institutional transition and diversion.
Hi, this is Frank Cordova.
Hi, Frank.
Hi. So I'm new to this. I'm the new options counselor here at Colorado Springs Independence Center. And but I did hospice before that. I'm a hospice nurse. And what I'm seeing with the transition, and everybody has spoken about that, is the housing and affordable housing and housing that has accessibility. So when I'm talking to these clients and I'm getting ready to, refer them to a TCA, I often wonder, Section 8 is a great thing, but there's only so many houses out there. And the frustrating thing for me is that I set them up, get them rolling, and then there's no place for them to go. That's affordable. And that's one of the things that I'm looking into in Colorado Springs, because we have a really high housing crisis going on right now. So I'm trying to think of other ways, to get around these situations and really getting involved with our housing people here at the IC. And I'm learning, but man, this is frustrating.
It is frustrating. Dawn?
Hi.
Was that Dawn who
Hello?
began speaking?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. This is Doris Ray from Independence Center of Northern Virginia, so I sent a question, but you might have covered it. I had to put down the phone for a little while because of an emergency, but on the housing side, we were very lucky to get training. This was before the pandemic, on housing programs, consolidated planning process and the administrative process for vouchers. And so one of the things that we learned is that, of course, now in effect, I haven't heard it's ended, is a mainstream voucher program that is replenished each year to jurisdictions who ask for it. That's the NEDS, it's called NEDS, non-elderly disabled mainstream vouchers. And that program, it has been very important, but when they run out of those vouchers, if you're in a jurisdiction where you influence the consolidated planning process, you get tenant-based rental assistance certificates under the home investment program. That's administered at the local level, and you have to look into what they're doing at your local level. The only possible problems with those vouchers is that you have to use them within the local jurisdiction. So, like in our area, we have a big county, Fairfax, who's in the program, and there for a while, Arlington County was not, and so, but you can't use one of these certificates except that you're going to be renting in the county where they have the home TBRA program.
That's
But also,
very helpful. I wonder if we could get a link, if anybody has a link to that home investment program. What did you say it was called?
every jurisdiction through the consolidated process.
Okay. All right.
So you have to seek information at the local level on their websites and their housing programs.
It sounds like a lot of these issues, housing and others, systems advocacy is really something that we need to be doing. I see some other folks that have mentioned in the chat. Ashley says affordable housing is a huge barrier in her rural area. Some of the subsidized housing agencies have 2-year waiting lists. Dawn, you have your hands raised again?
Well, the only other thing I would say is probably it's very possible in rural areas that you may not have a consolidated plan, but that your consolidated plan comes out of the state Department of Housing and Community Development, or whatever it's called in your state.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, we have one county that has been like that, and we had to go through the state get access to rental assistance. But the bigger thing is that in our state, there is a program for low-income housing tax credits, and it's through the state, and they provide money to developers for affordable housing, and they have 2 programs: non-competitive 4% tax credits and a 9% competitive tax credits. And the beauty of that is in our state, when the rules for the low-income housing tax credit program were developed many, many years ago.
Dawn?
There's a requirement that 10% of the units in any development using that tax credit
have to be.
fully accessible.
Well, thank you, Don. We have a few other people that are sharing some ideas in the chat.
Sure.
And because we're short on time, I would like to take a minute just to share those. Maria shared that she hasn't worked with them herself, but she's heard of home sharing programs where older adults can open up their homes for low rent to people who are struggling to find housing. And there's a whole process of background checks. And she asked the question, has anybody else worked with that type of program, a home sharing program? Anyone? Alyssa put in the chat that Habitat for Humanity can be a resource for low-income home ownership. So that's another solution. I know I've talked to a few executive directors of CILS that have mentioned to me that they literally have a housing program for transition only that helps people transition into the community. And while they're in that housing, they're supported in some ways. Does anyone else have any sort of in-house housing arrangements for people in transition? Well, we've got some good ideas there. We've talked mostly about barriers today, but it is time for us to sort of draw this to a close. I appreciate everybody's participation, and I look forward to seeing you next month. We're going to be talking about outreach, something that a lot of people have been talking about lately. I want to remind you also to do the survey, and I'm going to share a slide with my contact information and some attribution information for how we get to do this program. Thank you very much for participating. I'll go ahead and share that slide. Thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you for participating today, and we'll end the meeting now. Thank you. And thank you to the interpreters and the transcriptionist.